Mario Gourgel is a dynamic architect and project management professional with experience across diverse industries and multidisciplinary environments. He is passionate about challenges and innovation. He approaches architecture as more than the design of buildings, but as a discipline deeply connected to people, behavior, leadership, and the environments we shape. He believes meaningful impact comes from building high performing teams, fostering collaboration, and applying adaptive leadership to deliver value driven projects. Through his work, Mario continues to explore the intersection between architecture, project management, and emerging professional trends to create practical and transformative outcomes. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mario Gourgel.
Good morning, sir, and welcome to Architects Corner.
Thank you. Good morning, Rose. It's my pleasure to be here with you and contribute to this very good initiative to professionals.
Thank you for joining us all the way from Angola. We are grateful to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
Okay. So, sir, we will be talking about project management in this conversation today. And I would like us to start this way. Can you take us back to the moment you realized that being an architect wasn't just enough, when you knew you needed to become a project manager, and what was happening in your life at that time?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question that brings me very good experiences from that moment. Um, I was part of a working group led by a woman with who I grew up, and she was leading us as a team, and she was wondering why we were not so productive and not so focused in terms of what we were doing in our daily activities. And suddenly she told us that we would pursue a training on project management. It was in 2014, and with that in mind, she decided to sponsor a training in project management. And from that moment, I was realizing that being an architect is not enough. And many things that I acquired in the training that changed my life.
Wow. That's very great. And if you had to explain project management to someone starting today, what would you want them to know, or what would you warn them about first?
Yeah, the first thing I would share is that project management, it's not a technical discipline or subject. It is something that changed our lives, and it's a subject and way of working that provides us many tools and frameworks that is every time is evolving, adapting to nowadays challenges and opportunities, both at a personal and organizations level. And something that I would like to highlight when talking to this one person is embrace what project management has to allow you to be not only a better professional, but a better person. That was the words I would share with him or she.
Mm. But let's talk about why projects fail. Why do nearly 70% of construction projects still fail to deliver on time and on budget? What's the invisible trigger people rarely look at or talk about?
Yeah, as some professionals know and others don't, projects normally fail because of our perception of the things. And because of construction projects uh, have many processes, and these processes need to be rigorous,
Mm,
there is a tendency that we work in a very waterfall way, not thinking of the unknown and uncertainty that we are subject to. And this one mindset and approach make us have um, perception that things will uh, go well from the start through the project life cycle to the end.
mm,
And another aspect that make these construction projects to fail is that people don't have the sometimes I will not generalize, but some people tend to think that risk management is one subject that uh, all the team shouldn't be aware of because um, normally when we communicate in a manner that is not proper, um, we think that the legacy and the way we do things is the right way to do things. And the combination of this perception that things will go well from the start to the end and the lack of awareness in terms of risk management and poor communication, because communication I see as the core element to construction projects to succeed. These are the ingredients, not limited to these ones, that make projects in construction fail.
okay. Wow. But if what's the biggest single mistakes architects make when they first begin running construction projects?
Well, another way to think about of this is not to generalize, of course, because there are many good and architects. I will not say bad, because no one is bad, but has different approach or different perspective. And the single biggest mistake is that architects, those who are not aware of that, put them at the center of the project. They are servant, and I used to say that by their nature, architects are project managers, and they have to consolidate, they aggregate all other professionals. But this does not mean that architects should be at the center, because being servant is the good way, the right way to make projects succeed. And if architects or professionals, but in this case, architects, don't have this mindset, this will drive projects to failure.
Mm, wow. Thank you so much, sir, for that response. And I want us to talk about the context and the culture and the reality of things, especially from where you are coming from. Has the cultural or economic factor in Angola ever forced you to rethink a standard project management approach? Can you share a real example that you've had?
Yeah, normally I don't see an example, uh, but what I have to share is that one of the good things that project management have is that we can, at all times and when necessary, to tailor the approach of standards to the context you are performing or operating in. And the ways I thought that not changing project management start, but to align them to the context I perform in the context of Angola, is to align our laws and regulations to make them adjusted to what the standard um, tells us or drives us to do what is considered best practice. I'm talking about, for example, our public procurement law that has some gaps that I think project management can complement, but I wouldn't change in a reverse way, but to to make all the activities that I do in the context of a project here in Angola to have a project be successful.
Wow. Thank you so much, sir, for that feedback. And if you inherited a project already off track by 30%, what is the very first decision you would make to avoid disaster?
Well, this is a very interesting question because I was participating in an event, a webinar, where we shared um, many approach when we face such kind of situations. I'm talking about that we should change the way we think. And this one example is that with regards to a reactive approach, which means that we have to be more proactive to avoid that. But answering the question, I would say that as architects and not being the center, not being at the center of the team or the project itself, I would invite all stakeholders to understand what went wrong and why it went wrong. By practicing active listening, I would understand first what should be the course we will take in the next months, days, years to put the project on track again. The first decision would be this one. Listen to everyone to understand from their experiences what should be the best approach to bring back the project on track.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you, sir. And we'll talk about the failure and the hard lessons you've learned from your experiences. I would ask, what is the hardest project management lesson you only learned after everything went wrong?
Well, an example of that, uh, I don't have something that comes to my mind because what I would emphasize is the fact that projects are a teamwork and no one decision is single unless um, we have agreed upon on that. And by saying that, I will say that the only hardest lesson is when we don't make decisions on time. This plays a vital role in terms of impact. I will say impact on the what will come after we start or we are uh, working on a project. But during our conversation, if I remember one example, I will share for sure.
Thank you, sir. But then, scope script is often quickly what kills projects. In one of your affordable housing projects, was there a change request you accepted that later you wished had refused, and what happened next?
I have no examples about that
Okay.
because since my experience, um, I'm very, I will say, proactive, trying to aware all the team that project management is a serious skill that we have to be to comply and to be aware when we are performing. And talking about that, um, it is difficult, I will say, in the teams that I'm working and I worked also to accept that scope creep because of the impact it has in terms of financial and resources. And because project management is very important and was in some of the projects that I've worked in it. But talking about scope creep, I will say that more than just the scope creep, we need to be flexible in analyzing what impact this scope creep will have on the project.
Thank you so much, sir. And if you could go back, what's one contract clause you would add to all projects to protect against unknown?
Well, the first one is about risk management
Okay.
because many people have the tendency to think about of risks as something that we don't desire. But uh, from a couple of months from until today, I see that risk play a vital role when we are thinking and we are performing, we are carrying out projects. This one would be the clause, but aligned with some kind of the way we pay uh, the scope of the project. And what I mean by that is we should have some kind of award if we, as a team, and for example for contractors, if we achieve a certain level of effective outcomes. And this one to combine risk management and the way we award in terms of paying the scope that has been delivered or will be delivered, I would add to the contract.
Thank you, sir. And then another decision area I would want to ask is in your article on enhancing value delivery in public works, you discuss supply chain distribution and economic cycles. When materials or funding dry up overnight, what is the first move on site to keep the project alive?
This is a very, very curious question because it makes me remind the pandemic and many other events that occur when that impact resources management. And this goes to the answer I have gave before. Is related to. I will answer this in a reverse way. Is I would have a plan B and even C, and because normally we tend to have just a plan A instead of having a plan B and C. And what I mean with this is when we have only one plan, for example, plan A, we are um, making things to go wrong because life is not straight in terms of the events that will occur in the future. So things are unpredictable. So by thinking of that, um, and to answer the question, I would listen to those who are on site and to understand what would be the next action that could make us be successful to deliver that project. I would find, for example, local opportunities, local resources, local funding, if some of this funding are, for example, external funding, which is a characteristic of our projects in some contexts in Africa. there is we import many materials, but in such cases, I would ensure that we have um, suppliers in our context, local context, to make things go live and not deliver a project that is not successful.
Thank you so much, sir. So I was considering we take a break at this point so that by the time we come back, we can look at the technology aspect of it, the ethics, and some rapid fire questions on this conversation. So I don't know if that would be fine by you.
Yes, perfectly, perfect.
Okay.
It's been a good experience and wonderful because it makes us think and remember many of the experiences I've had, and so yeah, that's very interesting. That's very interesting.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
thank you. So before the break, you touched briefly on managing projects during the pandemic. I would like us to go a bit deeper there. When the pandemic hit and everything became uncertain, what was it like managing projects in that environment? Not just technically, but personally.
And it was, thank you for the question. It's a very interesting one. And I would like to share that um, I was engaged in volunteering, and one of my challenge was to manage conference in a virtual environment. That was very it was challenging in a way that we were not able to meet in person, to be in person with many of the participants and team members. And it was exciting because we had to rethink how we work, and that was a surprise for everyone. And because of this was a challenge, I decided to try to experiment something that would be similar to be in person with team members. And thanks to the technology, I used one of them, that is WhatsApp. I created some groups, and to uh, ensure that everyone would be in these dedicated groups, so the project could be successful in terms of what people think or thought in that moment that could be done. It was exciting because um, in my case, I couldn't understand how people were unless I could call them to request to ask for any support and things alike. But it was exciting and a good experience. But the good thing is that this conference, it was a PMI Angola conference. I was the project manager. It was successful because we tried to replicate something as if we were in person. And the big challenge was, how can we give to people, those attendants and participants, an experience that was similar to be in person. And I was thinking like a filmmaker director. And the big challenge became a success. So this was the experience I lived during pandemic.
Wow. Thank you so much. So I would like us to talk about the technology aspect of project management and the contradictions. Where do BIM and AI genuinely add the most return of investment on your projects? And where do you think they are overhyped?
Well, technology is something that we as professionals should be thankful to because it extends our capabilities. Talking about BEAM, which stands for Building Information Modeling, um, it's a methodology that aligns team members under the same um, environment where we can overcome some issues that may arise when we are carrying out projects. Uh, and in how return on investment can be assured when we use, for example, the BEAM. I will talk about artificial intelligence after. But in terms of BEAM, I will say that when people are aligned under the same environment, which is called common data environment, we can manage risk that I've talked about before. It allows us to not only forecast, but to predict what things may go wrong. And with real-time work and experience exchange and also expertise, we can allow to take much of the project. In terms of the artificial intelligence, the same way as BEAM extends humans' capabilities, allows people to, in some way, avoid some repetitive tasks that don't create value. This is where return on investment comes into it. Because we realized as professionals that some repetitive tasks, while they do not create value for the organizations or for those stakeholders, they will in some way hindrance what we perceive as value. So this is what we can say in my perspective about the importance of AI and BEAM to project management.
Thank you so much for that feedback. Now, on the ethics, you worked in affordable housing and public works. How do you reconcile the pressure for cost efficiency with responsibility to quality design and sustainability?
Well, I think a mindset of commitment will solve these alignment needs. That is to say that if you are committed to deliver the most value that the stakeholders need, those who will use, we see this with a very important aspect that we need to comply with. We feel under pressure if we're running out of time most of the time, but to avoid this, we need to start by planning ahead what could come. And I'm talking about a front-end planning that it's of so much importance in such kind of projects, in particular this one of affordable housing.
Thank you, sir. But sir, one thing I would like to ask is, if a young architect wanted to transition into project management today, where should they start and what mindset should they draw?
Well, I would say that project management complements every professional. And as I said before, architects are by their nature project managers. But sometimes, when I answered the question minutes before, it is needed for architects to don't think they are the center of the team and the project. If he or she wants to start his career in project management, I would say go and take much of what project management has to improve your competencies, skills, and be open to what's coming, because the same way the world evolves, as do project management. And to start your career in project management is the way and pathway that every architect should follow.
Thank you so much, sir. So we would like us to take some rapid fire questions, and the first one is, how do you handle a client who keeps changing the brief halfway through construction?
Well, first of all, I would say to him, what are his objectives? Because sometimes um, we as architects are not valued in what we do. Some clients used to say to us, just give me some designs, but in other ways they just say, oh, I don't need the design, I have the money, and let's keep starting the work. But when we have this type of client, we have to be aware that it's a matter of reputation as architects, and we should comply with not only the technical aspects by putting hands-on, but to make the client understand that with a structured process will guarantee the success of he aims to achieve. This would be the way I would handle a client with this kind of mindset.
Thank you, sir, for that response. And another thing I would ask is, do project management certifications genuinely change outcomes on site, or are they just mostly resume value?
For sure, absolutely. My answer is yes. Is yes, not only due to my experience, but from those very seasoned and very good professionals I met during my pathway. Because my answer is yes, because of one aspect that many certification holders, I won't say and not generalize, do, and I hope many should do that, is to find meaning on what you are learning with what you do on a daily basis. And this is where the changing occurs. It generally changes because if you are committed to being not for the sake of it, of change makers, we will find that many of the tools and frameworks we use can make the difference. And this is where when change comes. In terms of resume value, it all acts like that, but in conjunction with what we really have as experienced professionals by doing what really means using those knowledge that we acquire.
Okay, sir. Thank you. And I would say, what was the most exciting experience as an architecture student? What was your most exciting experience?
There are many. It's a difficult answer. I would say this one. I wouldn't expect to have the experience of managing a team virtually, but there are other ones. I will talk about one of, but a business intelligence project in a second floor building was the one that it was a most exciting experience I had. I was expecting the project in a briefly was to like a refurbishment floor where we had to have a refectory, a call center, and a business center, business intelligence center. And due to some HVAC concerns, we had to stop the project for 1 month because the contractor was not understanding uh, our desire as clients. But the end, the excitement and all the results made us feel glad we achieved. And many of the challenges we've seen was to work in times even will down and things like that. So we were so excited to achieve the results that it was a very, very, very interesting project.
So let's go back to architecture school for a while. What was studio life like a week before final jury in school?
Yeah, it was a very, I will say, it was a moment where I was, I was not believing that things were almost at the end, almost to the end, and because of that, I was expecting how would be to finish that. We'll say all journey that I was experiencing. And because of that, I started working before I finished my course. And I felt like I would be another contributor to the world we live in. So that was the feeling I had in that moment.
Okay. And what's your favorite food that brings back childhood memories?
My favorite food.
Yeah, food that
You mean
brings back
food?
childhood memories.
Yeah, it's difficult for me because I love different experiences. That will depend on my mood and my desire to hit something. And what I depending on the weather, I like, for example, fresh ones with salads, with some sauce and things alike. And it will, of course, have the addiction of beverage that will um, uh, add more. Uh, will be say, how can I say that? Another excitement in terms of what you are experiencing in that moment. But I love uh, that kind of food that have some spices of different cultures and explosion of flavors that makes us feel glad depending on the environment we are in.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. And finally, I would like you to say this in English and in your language so that anybody listening to you right now can understand. I would say, finally, if you could leave one sentence on the whiteboard of every architect turned project manager, what would you say? Both in English and in your language.
I would say welcome to the wonderful world of project management. And in Portuguese, I would say bem-vindo ao mundo maravilhoso da gestão de projetos.
Thank you so much, sir, for being a part of Actors Corner. And one more thing we usually ask our guests is who would you like us to have? Who would you like to see or watch their interview on Architects Corner that you feel the audience would need and would also want to experience their story and their journey?
Well, if it's not an architect, I would recommend Alcides Cabral, which is one of the former president of PMI Angola and one of the great leaders we have here in our country.
Wow, wow. Thank you so much, sir. And we'll follow it up from there. Thank you again for being on Architects Corner, and thank you for sharing your insight and your wealth of experience with us.
Thank you very much, and congratulations for this brilliant initiative. And I'm honored to contribute to the success of Architects Corner. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.